Hello students. So let's start with today's class of class 12 biology. So we were discussing about post fertilization events. In that we have already discussed about endosperm development, embryo development and seed development. Today we will study the fruit development. As you know that fruit develops from ovary and the fruit wall is formed from the ovary wall. The fruit wall is called pericarp and it is made up of 3 layers: outer epicarp, middle mesocarp and the inner one is endocarp. So morphology of fruits we have already done in class 11. We will not go in that detail. But here you must know about how the fruit formation takes place and what is the significance of fruit formation. Let me remind you, we have discussed about 3 types of fruits: simple, aggregate and compound fruits in class 11. So on the basis of the development of the fruit, means the fruit is developed from which part of the ovary, the fruits are of 3 types: simple, aggregate and compound fruits. So simple fruits develop from the ovary of a single flower. Means the simple fruits, they will develop from a ovary of a single flower. A flower is there, not a bunch of flower or inflorescence of the flower is there. A single flower will be there and the ovary, the fruit will develop from the ovary present in that flower. So there are 2 types of simple fruits: dry fruits and fleshy fruits. In this class there is no need to go in such detail of other further types of dry fruits and fleshy fruits. We will discuss only 2 types, that is true and false fruits, which is there in your NCERT book. So they will be of dry fruits and fleshy fruits. Dry fruits means where the mesocarp, endocarp, the mesocarp is not fleshy, it is dry in the dried form, and fleshy fruits in which the mesocarp is fleshy. Then aggregate fruits are the fruits that develop from a polycarpellary apocarpous ovary. We have discussed about these 2 ovaries also in class 11 in morphology chapter. Polycarpellary means when many free carpels are there. Free means, apocarpous means free. So polycarpellary means many carpels are there and apocarpous means the carpels are free. So many free carpels will form the fruit to form an aggregated fruit. Like in case of custard apple. You have seen custard apple. So that is an aggregate fruit in which you can see there are many seeds and the fleshy parts is present around each seed, because they have been developed from a polycarpellary apocarpous ovary. Next is a compound fruit which develops from a complete inflorescence of the flower. So these are the 3 types of fruits. Let us now see how these 3 layers of the fruit is arranged in a true and a false fruit. Okay, so let's see the true and false fruit here. Like for example, the true fruit is the one which will develop from the ovary, and false fruit is the one which will develop from the part other than the ovary. So that is why it is called false fruit. But it is not like that fruit is not edible. It is an edible fruit, but we are not eating the ovary part of the flower. We are eating some other part of the flower. Let us take the example, then it will be more clear to you. For example, true fruit I have taken example of mango, and in false fruits I have taken example of apple. There are some other examples like pear, strawberry. So let us compare the LS of mango fruit and an apple fruit. So in a mango fruit, here you can see, though it is a true fruit, so it has been developed from the ovary part of the flower. So here you can see, I have shown the outer part and the inner seed part. So seed which have been developed from the ovule is covered by the ovary. The ovary will later be converted into the fruit, and the ovary wall will be converted into the fruit wall. So here we have pericarp, the three layers: epicarp, mesocarp and endocarp. The outer layer is the epicarp. You must have seen mango. The yellowish upper peel of the mango is the epicarp. Inner to epicarp, the fleshy yellowish part that we eat is the mesocarp. And endocarp is when you will see the inner part of the mango seed. Means the outer covering of the seed, and inner to mesocarp is endocarp. Okay, so it is slightly hairy in structure. You must have seen mango seed. It is slightly hairy in structure. So this layer is the endocarp. Now inner to endocarp, when you will just open the seed of the mango, you will be able to see a hard covering, which is the seed coat, the blackish structure, which is the seed coat. And inner to that seed, there is a whitish structure, which is called the embryo. So is it clear? The outer yellowish peel of the mango is called epicarp. The inner fleshy part that is edible is the mesocarp. Inner to the mesocarp, the hairy covering around the seed is called endocarp, hard hairy covering. Inner to endocarp, there is one more hard covering, blackish in color, called seed coat. Inside the seed coat, there is a seed, and inside the seed there is a whitish structure called embryo. So this is a structure of a true fruit. Next is the false fruit. So I have shown you here example of apple. So if you will see the inside structure of an apple, this is the whitish fleshy part which is edible, and in the center there is a blackish structure that we don't eat. That blackish structure is actually the ovary. So this blackish structure covering the seeds is called pericarp, and inside the pericarp the seeds are arranged like this with the seed coat around them. Now the edible part of the apple has been developed from the thalamus. So actually we are eating the thalamus of the apple. That is why it is called as false fruit, because we are not eating the ovary, we are eating the thalamus of the apple. So is it clear now the difference between a true and a false fruit? So other examples are pear, strawberry are the examples of false fruits. So there is one more type of fruit which is called parthenocarpic fruit. As we have discussed about true and false fruits, but there is one more category of fruit which is called parthenocarpic. So parthenocarpic are those fruits which are developed without fertilization. So there are many fruits which can be developed without fertilization process. Though you know that the seeds, the ovules, everything, the fruit, they have been developed. It is a ripe ovary. It means which forms after fertilization, but in some cases there is the fruit formation without fertilization. The most common example is banana. So these fruits, such fruits are without seeds. In this, directly ovary will develop into the fruit, but seed will not form because there is no fertilization. So banana is the best example of a parthenocarpic or unfertilized fruit. As you know that seedless fruits now there is an increasing demand of seedless fruits because of some important following reasons, like the fruit seeds, they may irritate the people who eat fruit, and sometimes the industries which stores food or which gives packaged fruits can also they have to first remove the seeds from the fruit, so it is a burdensome work for them. So due to this demand of increasing demand of these seedless fruits, now the parthenocarpic fruits can also be obtained artificially by giving some hormonal treatment. So basically auxin and gibberellins are the hormones which are used for producing the parthenocarpic fruits. Like in case of tomatoes, by giving them treatment with the auxin, they can be obtained without fertilization and without seeds. Seedless tomatoes are there, seedless pear are there, seedless olives are there. So these all can be obtained by giving them hormonal treatment. So this is all about for parthenocarpic fruits. So let us now see the significance of fruit formation. So fruit formation. So let us see the significance of fruit formation. First point is protection. As you know, the fruits are present around the seeds. When the ovary is ripened, then the fruits will protect the seeds because they will cover the seeds and protect the seeds from any mechanical injury till their germination. Next is dispersal. As we have discussed, the simple fruits, there are some dehiscent fruits. So sometimes the fruits may dehisce, they undergo bursting by themselves, which help the seeds to do dispersal, so that they can be dispersed to other places for further germination. Next is food to animals. So many animals, they take fruits in the form of their food. So fruits can be taken as in the form of food, and the animals will help their dispersal because the animals will eat the fleshy part of the fruit and the seeds will be taken over by them to some other places, which will help in the dispersal of seeds. Then nutrition to the germinating seeds. So when the seed is used for, means the seed is sown, till the seeds germinates, the nutrition will be provided by the fruit around it because it has a nutritive tissue in it. Then importance to humans. The fruits, they play an important role in human life because we can directly eat the fruits. We can also use the fruits they gives us a good amount of nutrition. So we should include fruits in our diet. Okay, so one more topic is there in this chapter, that is artificial hybridization. So you know that we have discussed about the natural process of fertilization in case of plants, flowering plants basically. But the scientists, if they want to obtain the plants with some desired characteristics, then they go for artificial hybridization, in which they will artificially pollinate the flowers with their desired characteristics of the plants with their desired characteristics, and can produce a new flower or new plant with the desired characteristics they want to obtain. So the process of plant breeding, it is also called as plant breeding because we are breeding the plants which are not of same species, because we know that there is a pollen pistil interaction which will help the plants or pollens to interact with only the stigma of the plants which are of same species, which is a natural fertilization process, natural hybridization. But if we want to do cross between two plants which are not of same species, then what we have to do, we have to go for this technique. It is also called plant breeding, in which only desired pollen grains are used for pollination to obtain plants with desired characteristics. So in this we will select the plants of the specific characteristics that we want to grow, and then we will collect the pollens and will throw over the stigma of the other flower or other plant where we want to do the pollination. So let's see the steps one by one, then it will be more clear to you. So the steps involved will be, first step is selection of plant, because as we know that here we want to obtain a plant with desired characteristics. So first step will be the selection of plant, means from which plant we are going to take pollens and from which plant we are going to use the female reproductive part. For example, if we want to obtain a sugarcane plant which has a sugarcane with a thick stem and thick and long stem, then what we will do, we will do the breeding between two plants in which one is having long stem and the other is having thick stem. So that will be the selection of plant. It can be done manually by looking at the plants, means we will find the plants with a thick stem, with the long stem, and then we will do the cross breeding. So this will be the selection of plant. Next step is very important step, that is called emasculation. Emasculation means removal of anthers. Removal of anthers. So as I already told you that here we want to do pollination with our own requirement. So the next step will be emasculation. For example, if a plant is having a bisexual flower, so the plant will undergo self-pollination by natural method, But if it will undergo self pollination, then it will not be possible. Artificial hybridization will not be possible in that case. So what we can do, we can just remove the anthers from that plant. If we want to use the female reproductive part of that plant, or it's not like a female, because we cannot remove the female stigma or the carpels from the plant, because they are the only way by which the fertilization will take place. So the best way is we can remove the anthers from the specific plant. It can be done either manually or by using some suction pumps. It will depend upon the type of plant. For example, if a plant like hibiscus, it has a big anthers which can be easily handled. See, this is the stalk where these anthers are attached. So these anthers can be easily removed with the help of a scissor. Or if the plants in the case where the anthers are just above the carpels, in that case also we can just cut over the anthers from the surface. Or if the anthers are so small that we cannot handle them manually, some small suction pumps come which can be used to suck up the anthers from the flower. So this process of removal of anthers will be called as emasculation. But that will be done only in case of the bisexual flowers, because they can undergo self-pollination. If the flower is unisexual, like it is a pistillate flower, then there is no need to do that, because there are no anthers over there. There is no chance of self-pollination or natural pollination. So that will be done only in case of bisexual flowers. Next step is bagging and tagging. So in bagging and tagging, what we are going to do, as I have told you that we have removed the anthers from the flower. Now to protect the stigma from pollination from any foreign pollen or from unknown pollen, we have to protect the stigma, and it can be done by covering it with the help of a polythene or any plastic bag. This technique is called as bagging. So for example, this is a bisexual flower and we have removed the anthers from the flower. After emasculation, only the ovary part is left, the pistil is left. Now we will cover it with the help of a bag around it and tie it so that it will not get any kind of foreign pollen grains. And tagging means we'll just put a tag over the bag, means the date of bagging, means when we have done the bagging, so that we will be able to know when we want to do pollination. That will give us an idea with that on which date we have done this, depending upon the maturity of the pollen as well as pistil. Okay, so is this step clear, bagging and tagging? Next step is collection of desired pollen. Now as we have done the emasculation, what we will do after emasculation, we will collect the anthers into the bag, into some other bag, or if the flower is having only anthers, we have not done emasculation, then that pollens will also be covered, that anthers will also be covered with the help of a bag, so that the pollens, when will undergo dehiscence, they will produce the anthers, when they will undergo dehiscence, they will produce pollens which will be collected in that bag. That will be a natural process. Then next step will be dusting of desired pollen on the stigma of the emasculated flower. Like this is the emasculated flower, we have covered the stigma with the bag. Now we will take the bag in which we have collected the pollens. We will pour this bag, after removing this bag from the stigma, we will dust the pollens over the stigma of the desired flower, emasculated flower. So this will, what will be the significance of this step? That the stigma is protected from any other pollen, and in this bag we have the desired pollens. When we will dust these pollens over the stigma of this emasculated flower, the stigma will receive only the desired pollens, no other pollen. Then the fertilization process will take place. That is a natural process, natural step that will form the seed. The last step is the testing. When the seeds will be formed, then we will test the seeds by just germinating the seeds, by putting them into the soil and then observing the plant. If this plant will be produced, it means the seeds are viable seeds, and the plant which have been produced is having the desired characteristics or not, then we will use that plant for further planting. So these all steps are involved in artificial hybridization, and this is a very much important process because nowadays we can obtain any kind of plant, we can do any kind of plant breeding by using this artificial hybridization.